Good evening. Welcome to the Tuesday, April 16th meeting of the Transportation Committee. We have our committee members with us tonight, several staff members, and as well as some guests that will be joining us. So first item is the call to order of the meeting. Second item, we've got actually approval of minutes. If anybody has any comments, questions, concerns on those, we have the February 20th minutes as well as March 19th. Any comments, feedback on those? Seeing none. Anybody want to move those?
I can only move the 20th because I was here in February, but not March. Yeah. I think we have a problem with that, but I'll move the 20th meeting.
Move the 20th?
February 20th.
Okay.
Yes.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Mary, you want to move the other ones?
Sure.
You were here and...
And that was, I'd like to move that we accept the minutes from March 19th.
March 19th. Okay. Anybody opposed? No? Okay. So those are approved. So tonight, I say we do have a guest group that will be coming up to do a presentation momentarily, address this group, share their thoughts and some conversation, and then we've got a few other agenda items after that. So with that, I'd like to invite them up if you guys want to introduce yourselves, and then feel free to jump right in.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Katie Rigg.
My name is Tim Murphy. I live at 48 Corral Drive. I've been in Penfield for 37 years. I was on the Parks and Rec Advisory Board for 12 years. I was the chairperson of the bicycle master plan that was done in 2008 at the dispatch of Debbie Draw. I still am a cyclist, and one of my favorite people to ride with is former Sheriff Pat O'Flynn. So.
Thanks, Tim. So I'm going to just do a quick introduction of Walk Bike Penfield. It's a project of Color Penfield Green, and I'm one of the founders of the organization of all volunteers here in Penfield. Next slide, please. Oh, I have the clicker.
You left the clicker behind.
You have the power.
You just hold it and click, is my understanding.
Yeah, I think if you...
Is there a power button? Oh, I'm going to turn it on.
There you go.
Here we go.
You can see.
Sorry, everyone. All right, so Color Penfield Green is one of many Color Your Community Green teams in the region. We learn from each other. We share each other's successes, challenges. We are all part of the Climate Solutions Accelerator. Here in Penfield, we have run a number of classes through the past handful of years for children and adults. We publish a monthly newsletter. We're on Facebook. And here are some of the campaigns that we're working on: home electrification, electrification of cars, school buses, healthy yards. We work with others to move composting forward in the county. We work on state and federal climate policy, and now we're moving into active transportation. And I have asterisks on the first two because those have been programs that we've worked on with the town. And in the past, we've done a couple of clean energy community campaigns, and we've just kicked off another round of that. So we have loved working with the town in the past. I'm not going to go through all of this. Here are our goals. Really, it's about empowering people here in Penfield to take what's already, the really great things that are already happening in our community and push them forward maybe a little bit faster. These, we live these, we breathe these. They're very important to us. I won't go through the whole list. I was trying to pick out a couple to really highlight, but they are all super important to us.
We've got copies of your slides. We can send them to the committee members, so as you're watching stuff fly by on the screen, we will happily share those too.
Mm-hmm. So here in Monroe County, the county did a greenhouse gas inventory a couple years ago and found that transportation accounts for 41% of our emissions. And so if we want to really tackle climate change locally, we really need to be looking at transportation and all aspects of that. Monroe County is focused on electrifying vehicles, but also electric or hydrogen, but also reducing vehicle miles driven, and that's a mutual goal of ours. Both of those are very important to us. And I think One more. All right, so Walk Bike Penfield is new. We're only about 6 months old. We're definitely still learning. We've been meeting with all sorts of folks, and everyone's been so kind. But here are our priorities. We are advocating for alternatives to a car-centric culture, which Penfield absolutely is, without a doubt. So kind of the connection between the parks, multi-use trails and roads, and that's why we're here, and in general, safe streets and access for everyone. And we've been trying to learn what's going on already in Penfield and in Monroe County, and then how can we support efforts to move things along, maybe a little faster. And there are other walk bike teams in the region, and we are working with them as well.
Okay, so I'm going to jump in, but just a couple points of reference. I read a bunch of stuff in prep for this, and I wrote a couple things down to just share with you. So the Federal Highway Administration, one of the things that they published fairly recently was that 87% of all the people that go to work drive in their own car. Only about 7% use public transportation. And that 35% of all vehicle trips are under 2 miles. So imagine just going to Wegmans, picking up your kids from school, all of that. I also, just again, point of reference, I rode my bicycle to work over 1,000 times. I worked at Bausch & Lomb, and that was my way getting back and forth. So I really know the roads around here really well. And again, I did the bicycle master plan, so I dove pretty deep back 15 years ago into, the infrastructure, got to work with the Genesee Transportation Council. We generated a plan, but we didn't really do too much with it. So here I saw the opportunity to jump back in again. So there were 4 things that Katie shared with you that we kind of came back here. The safe streets philosophy, in the comprehensive plan. And again, I'm not going to read this all to you here, but I will pick out a few things. Can the town do a pilot on strategically located wider sidewalks for bicycle ridership and walkers? I mean, I'm reading the words, and Mark, you've heard me talk about this for 15 years, right? I still think it's the big idea. We haven't made any progress, but again, I see the opportunity. So this morning I had to go to a meeting at 8 o'clock, and I was going down Stridman Road on my bicycle, and I was pleasantly surprised to see how many kids, little kids, going to Plank Road north or south that had their backpacks on riding their bicycles with their parents with them. It was a beautiful morning. They were on the sidewalks, and they were heading to school. I mean, isn't that a great message, right? A lifestyle thing that you want your kids to get. So, a lot of what we want to talk about here is, how do we enable that behavior? How do we support that behavior? And actually, the number one thing that popped out in the master plan that we did is safety. People just don't feel comfortable on the roads, sharing it with the cars. And I've ridden throughout the country and even throughout the world. And actually, I think New York State does a great job of trying to help promote it. I mean, we have wide shoulders. The intersections, when they get rejuvenated, there's at least some consideration there. But we'd like to do more. I mean, we just see the opportunity. So, again, I've kind of been espousing this. In particular, the one area that I see as a possible linkage is 5 Mile Line Road to the barn at Shadow Pines. And I don't mean the Clark barn, I mean the storage barn. There's nothing on the south side of the road, there's nothing on either side of the road after you get past the, the Shepherd home and the church area. But imagine, if we're going to have mountain bikers at some point, maybe at the south side of Shadow Pines, let's enable them to ride their bikes there. And with all the truck traffic and bus traffic and, the gravel yard there. So just trying to be specific on something as an idea.
That was one of my questions. Was, did you have a specific road in mind or location in mind? And, obviously, as we've talked before, and some of our challenges is, trying to convince neighbors to give us a 5-foot wide sidewalk easement. Talking about 10, is going to be even more challenging than that. But if you had specific, spots in mind or areas, or at least if you're looking at a, a pilot location, it's good to know that you've kind of targeted something or you've got something in
So I
mind.
could leave this with you, Mark?
Perfect,
I mean,
yeah.
I've shared this with Andy Erkvitz and Tim Masterton.
Okay.
And talked it up at their forums, but I could leave that with you.
Yeah, that'd
But
be
there's other places. I mean, again, think of the centrality of the schools, Rothfuss Park, Shadow Pines. Again, one of the ideas we have down the road here is talking about a bike bus, which again is a group of young people jumping on their bicycles with parents on one end or the other, as opposed to getting on a school bus on a marvelous day like today. Again, just, how can we promote that lifestyle? So, sorry, I went a little deeper than I meant to, but I mean, that's important to us. So let me go back to the notes here. Can we update facilities? So one of the things that came up when we were talking amongst ourselves is point 3 here, the Wegmans Penfield Road. It's not very accommodating for people who just want to walk there.
Yeah.
I mean, going across 441, I mean, there's a big wide curb cut there, but there isn't a sidewalk really to enter the facility. And, imagine, somebody said, they want to go from those adjoining neighborhoods, just walk over to Wegmans. Again, that seems to us to be, an example of kind of looking at things from a different perspective and saying, hey, again, maybe we could do a short linkage there, working with Wegmans, and maybe put some signage and promote the behavior.
With that one, so you're aware, that is something the town can reach out to Wegmans and make the suggestion, but it's not something the town can force upon them.
Okay?
But so you are aware, towards the Willow Pond neighborhood, the town did actually install sidewalks connecting that neighborhood into the Wegmans Plaza so that it is accessible for those the neighborhood or people coming through that neighborhood.
Good point,
And we
Sarah.
just did that a few years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's something I know we
remember how
try to
many years,
look
but-
at and plan review for new applications coming in is how do you get people there, how do you, walkable and stuff like that. It's some of these existing locations that predated that look or, how do we go back and retrofit or, work with that business to, upgrade their facilities to accommodate that.
But point well taken, Sarah. Thank you. I mean, and Wegmans has always probably been a good neighbor, and we have 2 within our town. And I mean, just a tangent, I could imagine us, Color Penfield Green lobbying to have more EV charging stations. I was pleasantly surprised I was able to get one tonight. Mostly when I come up here, I can't get my free electric. But I mean, again, trying to put EV charging stations in high-density areas would seem like would be a good thing all of us would want to promote.
Yep.
So sorry, tangent there?
I would actually like to go back. What is the role of the Transportation Committee in implementing the elements of the comprehensive plan?
So most of the committee, they're here in kind of a sounding board, for us as staff. So in the active transportation committee or action, that's something we've yet to, put forth to this group. But as we get into it, this group would be, a sounding board for that or, feedback, on that end. So often most of these are staff-led efforts where the kind of the interaction point with the public and in groups such as yours, and then, we feed this stuff back, to this group and, get their feedback and their expertise of, their neighborhoods where they live and, their experiences as well. So there'll be a group that's definitely going to be engaged in that. They haven't been as of yet, so we thought this was kind of a good kickoff to that, to share to them that, and then we've got some discussions about sidewalks and interconnections that kind of tied in well, and, as we move ahead with conversations with the town board to, have this group, weigh into that. But, oftentimes we end up being more of a reactionary to people are speeding too fast in our neighborhood, and so more often our conversations are on that. Can we have speed humps and slow people down and more signage based? But, this would be a good group to also talk about, those interconnections and, more active transportation
So thank you,
pieces.
Katie.
Thank you.
So let me just follow up on what Katie said there, too. The color Penfield Green is so appealing to somebody like me because they want to be part of the solution. I mean, so many times you hear the NIMBY thing, not in my backyard, I don't want, and that there aren't a lot of solutions offered. So what we've kind of challenged ourselves is if we want to talk about a particular topic and make a difference, that we also come with some options. So again, the promise going forward is, we'll try to think these things through in terms of, what would we do? What's some alternative? Maybe we'll have a recommendation. But again, I know we're not coming here just to complain. We want more. It's like, how do we get there is that shared mission.
Yeah, and I think grassroots advocacy for sidewalks and connections coming, and we shared this before, from the residents sometimes comes off better than the town asking for something. Us coming to the town saying we want to take your land is what they hear, rather than, hey, we want a sidewalk easement, where if friends and neighbors are coming saying, hey, wouldn't this be a great connection to Shadow Pines property, couldn't this make sense, then I think sometimes having that come from residents to other residents may be a little less intimidating than when I come knocking on the door saying I want an easement, or they just hear I want to take your land from you, and I think it oftentimes gets a little bit more negative reaction. So I think that's something that your group and others can definitely help with, is advocating for those connections and getting those easements that we need to help with installing.
To share, so Mark's talking about the easements. We have met separately with Katie and Tim to explain why those easements are necessary. For residents that are watching or resident members that are on this committee, oftentimes we have to get easements when we're trying to put sidewalks in because there's not enough space within the right-of-way for a sidewalk to be placed. So we have to get that extra room where we have permission from landowners to go on that property and install the sidewalk.
Are you aware of any grants or funding opportunities to help support this initiative?
So good question, and I'm going to say no, not right now. I know the Ralph C. Wilson Foundation has been very generous to this part of the community. But we haven't really matched up our initiatives with any grant programs, but that would be an opportunity.
And part of the beauty of the network, our sister teams across the network, everybody's looking for those opportunities, and I frequently send them to Sarah's inbox when I do find them. And we just haven't been looking for active transportation for very long because we're still new. But that's a great point. Thank you. Yeah.
So last thing just on here, because it came up from some of your colleagues when we had a similar conversation, is education and communication, are shared and important objectives. Again, I'm reading the words, but when we were talking to Andy Verkvitz and, to Masterton, and it's like, too often people come to you with a problem and there's no other side of the coin to it, right? So if we hear, like the brush conversation from the other night, right? All the people stood up and said they didn't want it in their backyard, but I didn't hear one person offer an alternative. And then I spoke up at the end saying, well, what about, the quarry, for example? So anyway, we see that as an opportunity if we work with you to, again, be maybe the other side of the conversation. Okay? So what is the transportation's role in implementing, transportation board's role in implementing this, the Monroe County Active Transportation? That's kind of a question.
Again, a lot of and I said most of the county stuff is on county and state roads, so those don't immediately fall under our jurisdiction, but, this group has advocated as we have agenda items on here, people come to us and say, I'd like to see a crosswalk here, I'd like to see a connection there. This group lends support, to those other agencies. We've yet to finalize our townwide traffic study, but again, that's looking at intersections of county and state agencies. So if we do some of that work and then can come back to them, suggest some improvements, in their area. Obviously, we can look at our own and local roads, and we've got Eric here as our DPW director tonight. But this committee kind of supports and, provides, feedback to county and state on their roads of what we'd like to see. We meet annually with the state DOT. I think we're one of the few towns that do. So we meet with them and see where their next projects are, what do they have going on. We kind of share our concerns of what we see in the community, whether road condition maintenance, future improvements. So we do meet with them, annually and have that set up. So, and then, we've met, fairly frequently with the county in the past as well. So I think this group can be, again, another advocate for improvements on roads for bikeability, walkability. I know we're always asking them where their sidewalks are and, pushing the state ahead on that.
But we have no budget for any of this stuff, so if you're looking for sidewalks, there's a lot of neighborhoods that are looking for sidewalks, just so, mom can push their stroller and kids can ride their bikes, not in the streets, and that all has to come through the town. And I know that there are grants. One of my girlfriends is on a town board in a different town, and she did a sidewalk grant and received money for her town and it seems like it's just this little tiny piece for all this thousands and thousands of dollars, but you just do it and keep building on it. So just be aware that that's who you have to advocate to, is the town board for funding, and work with neighborhoods to, a lot of us have either homeowners associations or neighborhood watch groups where we all get together.
Do you happen to know if that particular one was the Monroe County grant offered by Adam Bello, the one that came out last year?
No, this was a couple of years, this is like 2 years ago, and it was a state grant, because it was on a state road.
And there used to be safe routes to school. We keep our eye out for that one. I haven't seen that one in a couple of years. We used that in the past for some other spots, around Scribner Road. I know I'll be talking tomorrow night with the town board about the county grant, where they would like to, ask the county for money, and then obviously make sure the town board is, looking to allocate additional funds to that. So that'll be a conversation. Tune in tomorrow night about the same time, and we'll be right here.
Same bat time,
same bat channel.
So just cherry picking a few things from the agenda. So the Route 286, Browncroft, Atlantic is going to be rejuvenated, right? And
2026, I've heard.
Okay, so that's kind of changed. But my frame of reference is, I worked with Jeff Benway many years ago, the intersection of 5 Mile Line and Atlantic. We got one bike lane, but we got wider shoulders. We got the wider shoulders down at Plank and 5 Mile Line Road. But Mark, and you've heard me say this, east and west going in Penfield on anything other than a vehicle is difficult.
Yep.
Plank Road is getting more crowded every day. So just see the opportunity to provide some input for when we're going to do that. I mean, I think Jim Willer used to be the guy, and, now it's someone else. We need to know who that someone else is, and, can we provide input on what we would like to see on that major, was it Qualtro to 590?
Yes.
Because that one stretch there is like the worst place in town, between Creek Street and where White's Village is. There's nothing there except for the sidewalk on the north side.
Yep.
There's no there's no nothing.
Yeah, and I haven't heard who the project manager is of that project, but, once we find out, I'm obviously willing to share, and,
That'd be great.
Have you seen in the past that's been effective, really, to, if we have one person or 20 people say we want, or please consider?
I think we constantly put the bug in their ear and push it. Obviously, we don't affect their budget and their design, but I think if they hear it's a want and need from the community, I think it has helped in the past.
So can we put it on you folks just to let us know
Sure.
when you have that, when's the time right and who that contact is?
Yeah.
Because
I'm thinking they got to be getting into design soon if they're going to be looking at
Right.
doing or rolling the project out. They'll be bidding it likely in 2025, and then construction in 2026. Obviously, that schedule can change, but that was the last that we had heard. So I think now's the time to start that conversation.
We'll wait on you guys to let us know, please.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
That-
Moved on here.
Oh, yeah.
I'll just, one small fact there. That project is federally funded. It's on the federal aid system, and it's part of the state's plan. So as part of that, they're required, they'll have to follow their project design manual, and in that is complete streets evaluation. That's part of the preliminary design, to look at what you have, what you need, evaluate those options. Now, there's the cost side of it, there's the reality side of it. Does it fit the scope, and can they make that work? So the project development plan and process that the state has will address that. They can't just skip over it and say, well, no, that's not part of it. So they have to go through that. So part of those are public records and part of public documentation relative to the approval of that preliminary plan. So it needs to be vetted, it needs to be addressed in some fashion, and there may be reasons why they can and why they can't, but that's what the federal aid requires, so the state will be required to do that.
That's good news.
Yeah. And we're really optimistic that the state has created a scoping plan to address their Climate Act of 2019. And so there are all sorts of great things in there, goals for 2030, goals for 2050. And so we're just hoping that this doesn't get lost in the, well, it's early days, and we're going to continue to just do things as we've done them in the past because of it.
No, the complete streets checklist doesn't go away.
Great.
Gets a little more robust all the time.
Great. So jumping around here, but just picking up on the number one point there. So the town traffic study, it was done. I think we heard it was waiting on the reports. But you could just candidly, how are you going to use that? And is there data in there that, maybe we can mine and...
Yeah, so basically focused on state and county intersections. So looking at crash data, looking at, how basically the traffic on roads aren't going to change. The traffic's there, it's not going to change. So this round, we didn't focus so much on the roads, we focused more on the intersections. So we have Barton LaJudas as our consultant. We've asked them to go out and study these intersections. They've done counts, they've collected county data, state data, looked at them, look at the, the accident rates on those, and then they're working on performing analysis of what is happening at those intersections. And then we're hoping from that data we can get and go back to the county and say, hey, it looks like if you added a turn arrow with this would help relieve traffic congestion. This may make this a safer intersection. Hey, it looks like you're having a lot of accidents at this intersection. Could we, then do a deeper study from that? So we're kind of looking as the kind of the seed that we've kind of done the basic work, looked at some of these areas. One of the areas, we had them look at is Jackson and Plank. Right now, that doesn't show up as a safety issue. That's not an accident data or accident location, but knowing that the school district is building the bus garage there, we've got concerns that that's going to change. So we've asked them to kind of look at that ahead of time and have some foresight as, hey, when and if this is Cummings on board and they're actively building it right now, how is that going to change? Do we need to do something different to that light before it becomes a problem? It's just a blinking, red light at the intersection now with a four-way stop. Does that need to become more than that? So that's the data we're hoping to get back from them, is to look at that, and then from that, then we can meet with the county and state saying, hey, we've had a consultant look at this, and it looks like maybe there's some easy changes, some hard changes, but, hopefully that kind of, plants the seed with them and kind of, moves that forward.
So just a quick question, Mark. So first of all, observation there, the lines of sights are terrible on the northwest and southeast corner, and I've seen many accidents there. But back to the traffic study, can you imagine where you could put the data out on the town's website?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, once we have it, we've looked at it, we're going to share it with this committee first, so, obviously they're the ones, we vetted the intersections through them. We didn't have unlimited money, so we looked at as many intersections as the budget could afford. This group kind of went through a whole list, and we said, hey, here's all the intersections we might possibly look at. We looked at, the accident data. We looked at some of the other intersections, said, hey, these, top group made sense. We asked, Barton LaJudas to look at that, so once we get that back, we'll share it with this group. Once this group has had an opportunity, then, yeah, we'll gladly put that out to the public.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
This is our last slide, other than a thank you. We know you have other things to take care of this evening, but we're really interested in starting young and building just a new culture of it doesn't have to be the car. And so this is really important to us, and we're wondering how does the town work with the school districts? Does your committee interact with the school district at all?
I mean, we have, and I know it's even it was a discussion item last week, like the Plank Road North and South. I know I've met there with the sheriff's office, with the school district facilities, as we see backups in the morning, how can the school district, better handle, traffic internally? I know we've worked with them on 5 Mile at the high school. They've looked at now, and they wrap the drop-off. The biggest issue is the drop-off of students. We've seen ahead of COVID, more parents driving their kids. COVID, I think, pushed that into the stratosphere. Everybody's driving their kid to school, so rather than how many kids on buses, more people are in cars now. So we've seen backups onto Scribner Road. We've seen backups onto 5 Mile. So we've talked to the school district and saying, hey, how can you handle this traffic internally better? So I know at least the high school, they've wrapped kind of the queue line around the school. I think that's helped. Moving the bus garage out of the four corners, I think, will help. Scribner Road, I don't know if we've quite solved that one yet. They've got some logistical real issues on their site, but we do have an open conversation with them, and I know the supervisor meets with the superintendent on a regular basis. We talk to their, facilities people, have a good rapport with them. We've dealt with them or worked with them on the transportation facility. They've got some improvements coming out at the high school. They've kind of kept us in the loop on that. It's a little bit different. Their approval process goes through the state education department, so it doesn't actually get reviewed by the town. But, they've been a good partner with having conversations with us, but it's not the same as a new subdivision, a new development. We would actively review it, and approve it. But since there is a school, they go through the state education department, actually approves their project, so that doesn't fall under the direct purview of the town. But they've been willing to share their information in the past.
That's great.
And then I'm learning about bike buses. This is new to me, and didn't know what that was before, so.
So the other day, I just rode my bike down to the high school and just rode around the high school. I took a few pictures, and they're not in here, just to kind of observe. And I couldn't believe how many bicycles there were scattered in different places. They have 2 rusted bike racks out on the field.
Okay.
Near the path that connects the complexes, but they were laying against trees, connected to
Light poles.
one of the poles, a lot. And I was like, one of the things that maybe Color Penfield Green could do is approach the school and say, how can you promote this? Maybe you put a covered something out in front to promote the behavior and accommodate those that are doing it. Maybe it could get a little bit contagious.
Yeah, make it a better situation.
Yeah. And I would like to start a bike bus from my neighborhood to Scribner Elementary, but I'm worried about, the couple of minutes that we're riding down Scribner. How will the traffic respond to that? I can see some anger setting in. So
I've got a question. Could I ask the deputy?
That's up to him.
So I've seen in many places, the signs that says, posted speed limit and then your speed, and then if you go over it, it starts blinking, and it's, it gets your attention, right? How come we don't do that so much around here?
It's not something that we implemented, something that the town actually.
It's something we implement.
We've actually, and they're expecting one shortly, so we had some extra money last year in our budget, and Eric had money in his budget, so we actually bought a cart that has that, so we're hoping to roll that out.
Cart mark, but I've seen the sign, they've got a little.
There's some mounted ones, whatever, yeah, and I know there's ones you can mount on a pole. Those are more of a permanent fixture. Those work in certain locations. We've found, at least, we've got a cart that, as you move it around, we found the other ones kind of, I don't say get stale, but once you've seen it, you kind of becomes white noise again. We've moved ours around, and obviously there's different anecdotal, references to that, but, we move ours around and give feedback. But in school zones, it's something you could look at.
I would think, just an opinion, but I've seen them all over. And to me, it never gets old. It's not white noise, because it does flash and get your attention. I remember the white cart we used to have that was in strategic locations, and haven't seen that in a while. But again, that's not what I'm talking about, the pole-mounted ones. And I was just imagining that's probably less of an investment, right around.
You just got to look and see if you've got power in the area, or if it's got to be a solar-powered unit. But that's something we can look at.
Okay.
There's one on Elmwood in front of the town hall and the police department. And I drive by there, and it's always flashing like crazy because nobody pays any attention. They drive the speed of the road. It's a straight road. It's a 35 mile an hour, I think it is. And I'm even on the expressway, and you could attest to this. I'm doing 65, and people are still flying by me, giving me hand gestures. You just are never going fast enough for everybody.
The only thing I'd say is that it's not everybody. I mean, I would hope that some part of the population.
Well, I'm one of the population that, tries to, because I'm more aware, I think, but yeah. But I still see the thing in front of the town hall, just nobody pays any attention to it.
Okay, thank you.
How do we wrap this up?
We say thank you so much for your time, and we really appreciate the invitation to be here today.
Sure, thanks for coming. Thanks for sharing.
I'll give you, again, I've shared this with others, but it's just the specific link along Whalen Road.
Perfect, thank you.
It's not an artist rendering, something. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
So as we shared previously on the town board agenda tomorrow night, last week we had a public information meeting about sidewalks. So as we talk about connections, we talk about, connections to schools, parks. We put out a call to the community asking for sidewalk suggestions across our area. We've got a compilation of what we had in the past. Yeah, we can pull that up, as well as many new I've added to my list, and I'm up to 3.6 million now. We can share that. As we're putting out there, we've kind of got on the top list, and I need to, I think I will view that list on what the list was on top. So the group on top is what the town board had elected to do last year. Now we've done the design, now we've done the getting the easements and everything else, so we're moving ahead with Plank Road. So this is one piece. If you're familiar with the area, and Jason, you're very familiar with the area, being in the neighborhood, there's one house on Plank on either side of Crown Point that basically doesn't have sidewalks in it, doesn't complete it. We've talked to the neighbor, he said, sure, I'm great. Yep. Signed the easement, so we're moving ahead with that piece and have that connection done this summer. Penfield Road, we're looking at a last piece by Gentle's Market, or what formerly was Gentle's Market, at the top of the hill. So we were waiting for years for Dolomite to do their connection. They've just completed their section last year. We've got one last little piece, and then we'll have Penfield Road completed. 5 Mile Line, we have one small piece kind of south of Tall Tree. There's one gap, one house in there. We've been in conversation with the property owner there. We've got to do a retaining wall. We've actually been just waiting for RG&E to get that approved to put the retaining wall in on the gas main. So the homeowner's supportive. I think we've hopefully got RG&E in support of that, so we can put that retaining wall in and install that piece of sidewalk. And then the bigger pieces, we're moving north from Embry Road, going up towards Shoecrafts. That'll be on the east side. We've let those neighbors know about that. And then we were actually able to get some community development block grant money in the Willow Pond neighborhood. So we're installing an additional sidewalk. So that's in a neighborhood south towards Wegmans, southwest of Wegmans and 441. So we're moving ahead with that. So, and then the rest of the list, and I know people can't see on the size of the screen here, but just the list of suggested locations that we've pulled in is 5 Mile. I call it Old Jackson. Jackson Road going north, Jackson Extension going south, Atlantic Avenue, Clark Road, Fairport 9 Mile by the YMCA, Fairport 9 Mile south from 441 going south to the Perrington Town Line. We've got Parkview, so that's in the White Village neighborhood area to the west. We've got Shoecraft Road. We looked at that most recently and kind of ran into some easement issues, with the neighbors in that area. So we've got that design done and kind of put that on the shelf for the moment. We've then got Hatch Road, very near the schools, so in the Scribner Road going north. Suggestions for some filling in spaces in there. Wayland Road, and I think that's just a one-lot piece on the south side. 285 feet. State Road requests kind of going east of Shoecraft towards up along State Road. Alta Vista. This group has heard and talked with the Alta Vista, Rossbrook neighbors many times in the past. That's used as a cut-through. Yep. People don't want to wait for the light at Panorama and Atlantic, kind of cut through that neighborhood, so we've heard from those neighbors in the past. I know Rossbrook came in and was moving ahead. Again, we had some easement issues in that area that some neighbors, didn't want to give easements. So just to kind of share, there's areas we've wanted to go and areas to connect, and easements or people's willingness or unwillingness to, grant easements has kind of held up, stuff in the past. Sarah, if you can kind of scroll down a little bit further. Atlantic Avenue, again, this is one on Treebrook, and this is another agenda item I've got coming up on the north side from Treebrook, so that's just north of Shadow Pines Park, going east to Scribner. Again, we've had some neighbors that are unwilling to grant an easement in that area. And then Highland Drive, again, connecting to the Cobbles Road School. If you've ever kind of driven down that valley, it's a very tight road, steep side banks and stuff through there. So I don't know if that's an exhaustive list. It's one I'll share with the town board tomorrow night. But my rough estimations, that's about $3.6 million worth of sidewalk requests, and I have a $200,000 sidewalk budget. So as you can see, any grant funding opportunities, I know the county has some opportunity out right now. They're offering basically to split the cost of the sidewalk, so that'll be part of my conversation with the town board tomorrow night, is to talk to them and see what and where and how they want to move ahead on that. And then obviously there'll be some further conversations with the board about these connections in here, but I thought it was important to share with this committee as we look at interconnections. We talk about, connections to schools and, safe access points and everything else that come up, just to share one for the public and, as well as this committee to kind of see the requests we have. It's wonderful. It's great. I'm glad to hear in the community being engaged in all these locations. I always feel bad that obviously we can't meet all the needs and requests that are out there, but I thought it was important to kind of share what we're.
Mark, does the town self-perform all this work as well?
We do most of the design work in-house, as we can. If we get into a large project, we can outsource that. Currently, we have Heinz Concrete on contract for the sidewalk installation, so we do as much as we can in-house. We do the design. We typically, acquire the easements from the neighbors, kind of work with them through that, and then, use whatever contractor we have on at the time to actually install the sidewalks when it comes to it. So this list we're actually looking at for 2025 and beyond installation. So here we are in the middle of April. The board, I don't think, is going to make a decision tomorrow night on these. I think it's just kind of here's what we've seen so far. We've got to map them all and then, give them a rubric to kind of whittle down, what makes the most sense. So it'll be a May, June decision. Then they'll tell us to go out and get survey work. We get the survey work, and then we start our, design somewhere in the fall, winter, talk to the neighbors, get easements. So that's why I'm saying this is, these are 2025 constructions. We're kind of working a year ahead on looking at what will be next year. So if anybody else has any thoughts, suggestions, sidewalk connection locations, not only this committee, but again, another opportunity to reach out to the public to, provide your input and feedback. We can add it to the list and then, get it before the town board for their discussion and debate.
Mark. Excuse me. Mark, just to confirm, the $3.6 million that you're estimating for this that's not taking into account the design cost?
It is not.
So that's just purely the construction
We're looking
cost.
at just a kind of a rough construction, so we've got I think a $56 a foot, cost from Heinz Concrete. We were kind of round that up to 75 is kind of our number working with. We got to do driveway replacements, we've got to do lawn restoration, and then we typically add a 10% contingency. So some are higher or lower. We've got tree removals, we've got culvert and drainage work to do along with the sidewalk. So as you can see, even at $75 a foot,
Linear foot, right?
Linear foot. Okay. So 5 foot wide sidewalk, every foot basically is $75 at a minimum. And I know the county recently just got bids, and theirs was $78.
There for a large project of, I don't quite agree with how it's calculated, but in square yards, for a bigger, like some of these that are hundreds of feet or thousands of feet would fall into that. I guess that price category. The cheapest for those big projects was $78 per linear foot, but upwards of over $100.
And that's purely for digging out, putting the stone in, pouring the concrete. That doesn't include any of the ancillary driveway repairs, tree removal, drainage improvements ahead of. Yeah. That's just purely the contractor gets paid $78 for every foot of digging in lawn and putting back a concrete sidewalk. So.
Does the town assist with like tree removal or anything if needed, or is it all?
We've done some of the stuff. If it's on our roads, and we've done some of the stuff in the past where we can. A lot of times along a roadway, it's in utility lines, so obviously our DPW crew doesn't get involved once it's up in the wires. But if there's small drainage projects or other areas, we've done some grading up on Jackson Road. DPW has assisted to as much as we can extend our dollar. That's why we try to do as much in-house design as we can. We do the easements in-house, trying to, just knowing the sidewalks are so expensive to offset the cost. If we put it out to bid and then the design bid and everything else, you may double that cost. And
I only bring up about the kind of the design cost itself. If the town were to get a grant or the town board were willing to allocate funds for the full $3.6 million, given the size and scope of this list, it would take a heck of a lot of, just time and effort to design everything to the point that, to be able to get through all of this, if it were to be taken on in a given year, would need to be outsourced, and that would come in at an additional cost as well.
It'd be at least 15% more, so.
Yeah.
Any other discussion from the committee? Okay. Eric, you want to talk about bike lanes?
Sure. So as part of the Monroe County Department of Transportation's annual kind of project, work list for the summer, a few of the roads that they're looking to do maintenance improvement projects on within Penfield this year include State Road, Salt Road between Atlantic, let me back up, State Road from Plank up to the Webster Town line, Salt Road from Atlantic to 441 to Penfield Road, and then Carter Road from 441 to the Perrington Town line. With that, they have wanted to look into the option of potentially including bike lanes on these roads. So I think at the last meeting, Mark brought up that the minimum road width would need to be at least 32 feet wide, if not greater, to be able to accommodate either 10 or 11 foot lanes with a 5 to 6 foot wide shoulder. With that, they have identified and been able to measure and confirm that State Road, Salt Road, and Carter Road would be wide enough to accommodate and restraight bike lanes once the resurfacing projects were completed. However, the county's legal department has determined that no standing signs would need to be installed at a maximum of 200-foot spacing on both sides of the road for the entire duration of each of these roads, if considered. The county would also cover the cost to provide and install the signage. However, the signs would then be turned over to the town for ownership and maintenance responsibility, and I guess potentially liability if there were ever any damage to the signs, and depending on how soon they were, I guess, found to be damaged and then subsequently repaired or replaced. So I bring it up, the county has inquired with each of the towns. This will also be going to the town board tomorrow night, but at least wanted to bring it up to this group to see if you guys had a sense of either comfort and support for this. I can say overall, I'm supportive of the idea of bike lanes, but I've got a lot of hesitation as far as the signage and the requirements that puts onto the town owning and maintaining signage on a county road.
What does the designated bike lane get us? I mean, if they just stripe it with wider shoulders.
So it's not only striped with wider shoulders, but it is striped with the bike lane symbols. Tim may be able to speak on behalf of it a little more.
You'd get the symbols within the shoulder space. The bike lane signage then means that it's just for bikes, and hence the no standing, because you can't park there. It's really used for bikes only. So right now, the shoulder that's there outside of the white line is for all those purposes, right? That's a multi-use. You can park there. You can, deliveries could be garbage pickup and bicycles. They share that space, although it's not noted and marked as such. But when you put the lane markings in, bike lane markings, then it's bike only. And hence the difference, but the need for the additional signs. I don't necessarily agree with the whole legal thing, but that's their call.
Yeah, and that was
I'm not there to chime in.
That was one of our initial, I guess, one of my initial questions and responses back, as well as when it was shared with the Town Highway Superintendent Association. I know a lot of the other towns had kind of similar
on the same boat,
questions and wanted confirmation, and that was the feedback that we received.
Eric, are we responsible as a town for any other Monroe County signs? Or signage on Monroe County roads?
The only ones would be any of the welcome to Penfield signs.
Right, but not any of the ones that they've installed?
What they've installed, no.
So then why are they pushing this on us?
I don't have an answer. That was the.
So we
I
can't
guess-
just take the bike lanes and say, no, thank you, you're welcome to have the signs? No? It doesn't work that way?
Not as it's been offered.
Okay, got
Currently.
it.
I like the idea of bike lanes. I'm just trying to imagine the aesthetic on
Correct.
Harris Road, a country road, and every 200 feet,
I know.
you've got a no standing sign.
Or bike lane, does it say no standing, or is it a bike lane only?
It says no standing. So, I mean, right now, I know the agenda says Harris Road. That was one of the ones that they looked at. Presently, the Harris Road does not qualify because of the road width. However, as part of the capital improvement project that is slated for Harris Road, that is something that can and would be considered as well. Currently, they are just looking at State Road, Salt Road from Atlantic South, and Carter Road.
Are there areas where it would make sense to have the signs due to like the use or occupancy, along the road where there actually is standing occurring? Because most of it seems like it's.
Any
Yeah, I
UPS
doubt
or Amazon
the
Prime
garbage
truck is going
collection, where are they
to, garbage is
supposed
going
to
to
go?
stop, or
Still
Amazon's
do
going to
that
park, they're
regardless.
going to do it no matter what. and
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
I
end
don't
up
know
with-
that I can necessarily answer that, but
Yeah, I didn't know if there was like any businesses along there that where someone may, pull over, wait for someone to come out of school or coming out of the building, or where it actually made sense or practical use for it.
I mean, Carter's mostly residential. Salt, you've got a mix of residential and agricultural. State is mostly residential. Really no commercial, properties along those stretches.
So would that, like, on the agricultural ones, would that prohibit, say, a guy with his tractor going from one field to another to not drive on the side of the road like they often do? Because it's a
No,
bike lane?
No, so they would still be eligible and able to drive down. You
Okay.
can't kind of pull over and stop and stay there.
Okay.
I guess one concern that I've got, and certainly understanding that there's a number of, people that do bike on these roads already. I don't know that, I guess my initial thought is having them, in some of these areas where you do have more farming, you've got more tractors, may have mud coming off of tires, kind of flinging it into those potential bike lanes. I've got some concerns about it. I guess people are biking as is on those roads.
Right.
But I'm unsure about promoting it further if there's potentially going to be some roadside hazards as well.
Okay.
In addition to the no standing signs, there would also be bike lane signs as well, right?
So the bike lane signs would not be on a fixed post. They would be painted within
Just
that
on-
kind of
just on
shoulder
the
lane
road?
itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just trying to think of how many hundred signs would be down any one of those roads to
Yeah,
designate that.
I can see
I
where-
want to say the Salt Road, that stretch is going to be give or take 10,000 feet. And if you've got to have one
Every 200 feet.
every 200 feet, you're going to have, plus each side of the road.
Times 2.
So nobody can park on either side, so I couldn't park in front of my house? Or if I had a party, I couldn't park in front of my house? Oh, boy, would I be
Just no,
would I be
you can park,
angry?
you just can't stand.
Correct, and that's
I'm
why,
sorry, but you know what? I pay my taxes. If that's in front of my house and I'm having a party and I can't fit people in my driveway, why can't they park in the road? Because it's a bike lane and it's no standing and it's winter time? Somebody will give me a ticket. I'm sorry, but I know there's somebody who'll give me a ticket.
just looking at, Sarah's kind of measuring for me quickly, just Salt and Carter itself is going to be, give or take, 130 signs, new signs that the town would be responsible for.
Average price of each sign? If you had to replace it? Because someone's going to hit it and knock it down.
I'm going to say because we don't make our own signs, the county does, we go through the county sign shop for those. I want to say they're probably going to be $30 to $50 a sign.
That's if you don't need to post.
Yeah.
Plus installation and time. And
Yep.
Okay.
And that would mean that some lots would have multiple signs in front of their property, because some of them are more than 200
If you've got more than 200 feet of road frontage, you
A lot of
may
them are,
have at least one, if not two plus signs in front of your house.
I mean, I'm in favor of the bike lanes. I think the signs is a little excessive.
And I would agree, that's kind of my thought as well. Discussing with Mark, felt that it would be appropriate to at least bring it to this committee to get, either kind of support or lack thereof to share with the town board tomorrow night.
That's kind of where staff was. I mean, obviously, we're supportive of bike lanes, we're supportive of
Oh, definitely.
expanded shoulders, and if we're restriping it, I think it accommodates it.
But the signs just, you get
The sheer number of signs, even if they weren't our responsibility,
I know, it's just ridiculous.
seems
And then you're going to
excessive, and then,
we'll have homeowners, if not here, in front of the town board complaining that, they're getting ticketed because they're parking in front of their house, because there's no standing sign there. And they've always parked there or whatever, you know what I mean? It just,
And given the nature of these projects, they're still going to have the same amount of space to ride in the same physical area
Yeah, 'cause
within
it's
the
just
road.
not going to be a dedicated bike lane?
Correct. The road's not, it's not,
No widening, nothing.
these projects do not include widening of the road
Okay.
if the town were in favor of, accommodating the bike lanes. The road width is the road width. That is not slated to change. It would be I guess just the way the driving lane width may shrink to make a slightly wider shoulder to then paint a bike lane on.
Which may slow traffic down as well if the driving lane gets narrower.
Could.
if you got 30 seconds, you're an avid biker.
Yeah, no, I can hear your wheels.
We're running short on
turning over
time,
here.
so I'll give you a minute, but
Tim Murphy, 48 Corral Drive. So is there a happy medium here? I mean, I love bike lanes, but it almost seems like the regs are excessive, right?
I think that's where we're at, is
Yeah,
there
but
we got
something?
lawyers involved.
Can be good. How about like share the road? I mean, I don't know what it takes, but just reminding people that they're a cyclist. I mean, East Penfield is a jewel for cyclists. I mean, I've gone out there hundreds, if not thousands of times. There's so many people. It's such an asset to the community. But putting bike lanes out there, again, I guess I would love the idea, but not how it's proposed.
Well, it sounds like it's
Kinda where we're at.
from the legal department of the county.
We just don't want it to come off saying the town of Penfield's not supportive of bike lanes.
Correct. But to have
That's going to be the sign, or the sound that comes
That'll be
out
the
saying,
headline.
we're not supportive of bike lanes, which is exactly the opposite. We just don't want to ruin East Penfield, given the signage and the regulations.
Yeah.
I would just say that consider share the road as an option.
Okay.
30 seconds.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I could say that the ultimatum that kind of was passed down from the county is that if the town's willing to accept the signs once installed, great, they'll install them, they'll stripe everything. If not, then they'll just stripe it as is. It will not have any bike lane stripes, and anyone is still welcome to bike on the road.
Right.
Yeah.
And
If we can advocate for a share the road sign or something along it, then I think that might be a good compromise over. Everybody's good with that?
Yep.
Okay. As we're getting short on time, I did have one traffic concern that was brought up, and I'll be sharing with the state DOT. Now that we're working on Shadow Pines and installed the first of two connections onto Atlantic Avenue with stone dust paths. If you've been by recently, there's one that comes out. The neighbors that live to the north side of that on Treebrook are asking about getting a crosswalk. So it would be a mid-block crosswalk. Obviously, Atlantic Avenue is not our road, it's a state highway. So we will pass that comment suggestion on to the state for them to take a look at. So as they review that, but we've now kind of got a stone dust path that comes out there, great access, opportunity to get people into the park. Thanks, Sarah, for kind of highlighting that area where it's coming in. We'll have another one kind of to the northeast corner, and then we'll have a connection into Harwood in the neighborhood to the west. So just trying to get access and connection locations in, but that's something that came in, so just share with this committee that we're sharing with the state and sending it on to them. We do have a few held items, and we have a resident here tonight. We have not been able to put out the traffic counters as of yet, just given the rain and the weather. So that's still on our agenda. We haven't forgotten. We will put those out, and then once we have the traffic data in the Beacon Hills neighborhood, we did have concerns on Northrop Road as well as Watersong for the feedback cart, so those are still on our our to-do agenda, and hopefully, maybe once the rain's done this week, hopefully Eric's done plowing the roads.
I'm done.
We don't need to be scraping up our tube counters. We'll get those out, and then once we collect that data, we'll get that back for this group to take a look at. So those are the items I had. Anybody have any new business items to share tonight? No? Okay. So with that, our next meeting is May 21st, same time, same location. With nothing further, we'll adjourn this meeting at 5:59 PM. Thanks, everybody, for coming.